then I go out and get adopted by 1100 bullet. Join the club, Thunderous Rage. I watch Tfue stream Fortnite. I'm like, I can just build. I can win the solo, and then I get killed. Like then I get killed before the end of the second circle. And we are back. All right, you guys. So we are back. So now it's time to look at the very epic round 11 game that I played with Black against GM Jeffrey Xiong from Dallas, Texas. I think this is the game everyone's been waiting for. So all right, you guys. So going into this last round game, the standings were I was on +4, Fabiano was on +4, and Lenny was also on +4. I had Black against Jeffrey. Fabiano had Black against Sam Shanklin, and Lenny had White against Timur Gurev. So basically, my assessment was, Shaydoc says end the stream and do this one tomorrow. Why would I do that, Shaydoc? Do you really want me to? Is that what you want, Shaydoc? Mana says normal people eat off camera. Okay, you guys tell me. Do you want me to save this game for tomorrow? Or do you want me to go play some Blitz, or do you want me to do it now? Thank you, 09 Drew, for resubbing 3 months in a row. Today, now, we want it done, Blitz. No, 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 no. Do it now. No, no, no. Okay, everybody's saying no. Everybody's saying now. Okay, so it's pretty unanimous that everyone wants it now. Okay. So all right, you guys. So all right, you guys. So as I was starting to say about this game, so going into this game, Fabiano Black and Sam, I expected Sam to be very, very solid and not take any risks. I expected Lenier most likely to win his game, and I felt that if I was so yeah, so as I was starting to say, I figured that Lenier was most likely going to win his game. Felt that Lenier was most likely going to win his game against Timur, and so that would mean that, realistically speaking, I figured that I had to try and win this game because the odds were very much in favor of Lenier winning. Timur, mind you, was coming off a very nice win around 10 with White against Ray Robson, so it was not guaranteed that Timur would collapse because he had won a game. He is obviously a very talented player and sometimes can play really good chess as well. He did hit 2680 FIDE a couple of years back, so for that reason, it certainly was possible that Timur could hold it because he is a very talented player. But based on his overall result and the fact that Lenny was playing very, very good chess, I figured that most likely the most realistic outcome was Lenny winning his game with White, especially because Timur generally doesn't play e4, e5 that much. He's more of a Sicilian player, and so for that reason, I figured the odds dictated that Lenny would probably win the game. So I figured, hey, I've got to go all in and try too. Thank you, Third Rock, for resubbing 3 months in a row. And so without further ado, let's get off to the races. So Jeffrey surprised me pretty much from the get-go. Thank you, Rebel, for subscribing with Twitch Prime. So he surprised me because he played d4. Most of the time, Jeffrey plays the e4, and I was having fits trying to figure out what I would play against e4. Spent pretty much all night long looking at various things. I had come up with something. Obviously, I'm not going to reveal it, but I had something in terms of an idea. And then Jeffrey shocked me by playing d4 on move 1. It's just you, Mr. JHB. I've not dropped any frames, so it's all good. Mr. Handel says, hello, Hikaru. Congratulations on becoming the champion from Greece. It was really cool of you giving a shout out to your Twitch viewers. Thank you, Mr. Handel. Hope you're having a wonderful time in Athens or Corinth or wherever you are in the wonderful, wonderful country of Greece. So Jeffrey played d4, which surprised me. I did intend to play the Dutch, mind you, but that was the extent of my preparation against Jeffrey. It was, okay, d4, I'll play f5, and then whatever, we'll do something. So Basically, Jeffrey played d4. I played f5. Immediately, I was very unhappy to see this because I obviously had spent all my time preparing for e4 and not d4. So here, Jeffrey played knight f3. I played knight to f6. Yes, a Dutch opening, very good opening. Jeffrey played c4, g6, g3. However, seeing this also made me kind of happy because at least here you can try to improvise somehow and create something. d4 f5 isn't two knight c3 meant to be good. It's an okay move. Verusian made a strong loss to Fabiano when he tried knight c3, so there are drawbacks to knight c3 as well. So g3, bishop g7. Jeffrey played bishop g2. Someone says why did you spend all your time on one e4? Do you think the probability of him playing e4 was that high? Jeffrey was having a bad tournament, first off, so that's the first thing that factors into the equation. Secondly, I figured Jeffrey is much more familiar with structures in e4. e4 tends to be a little bit harder against to get any sort of a mixed kind of position where it's a little bit messy. And so for that reason, kind of like I figured he would play e4. Also, because structurally he's more familiar with it, and in order to create chances in e4, generally you have to play something quite dubious to get something more dubious, generally speaking, than against d4. I feel so. For that reason, I was surprised to see this, but nonetheless, Jeffrey is traditionally an e4 player, so I figured if anything, he's on his own, I'm on my own. That's what chess should be. You know, no preparation, none of that stupid new age nonsense. Just play the best moves in a position that's new to you guys, and that's, I mean, really was the extent of my preparation. So here, Jeffrey played bishop g2. We both castled. I played d6. This is the Leningrad Dutch. Jeffrey played knight c3. I played knight c6. Yeah. So in terms of what I'm saying, yeah, basically the moral of the story, and one thing that I hate about modern day chess is too much of modern day chess is about preparation. You know, in the old days, you sort of knew your first 10 moves, and then you just played chess. Whatever the structure may be, wherever the pieces were, you just played chess. Nowadays, with preparation, you can get to like move 15, move 20 without even having to think. And I feel that sort of takes away from pure chess, which is really what I love. I mean, chess should be about just playing from the start, no knowledge, just get a position. Whoever plays the better moves wins. And so it's to reach this position out of the opening and play what I would say is akin to pure chess is much nicer than having to play prep to move 20. So all right, so here after knight c3, I played knight c6. There really are three moves. There's c6, there's knight c6, and there's queen e8. All three are playable. C6 is probably the most sound of them, but probably also the hardest to win with. Mana says a pure old man, Hikaru. Thank you so much for that, Mana. So here I played knight to c6. Jeffrey played d5. Now I played knight a5. Again, two options here. There's knight e5 and knight a5. So here I played knight a5. Knight e5 is also playable, also very sharp, but I felt that with knight a5, it's a little bit more unsound, a little bit more complicated, and something that I've only played once against who did I play against? I played against Levon Aronian and Vaikonze in 2011, I think. So I played against Levon, made a very comfortable draw with knight a5, so I figured why not play it again. Knight e5 is playable as well, but after queen b3 and c5, rook d1, it's a lot sharper, and it's also much more straightforward for white to play than knight a5 is. So for that reason, I thought knight a5 was a better practical choice. Jeffrey played b3. So here I played c5. Jeffrey played bishop b2, a6. Very important that once I play c5 and white does not en passant. This actually made me very happy too, because if white en passant, with this structure, white's just slightly better, and it's going to be very hard to create a messy pawn structure. Thank you, Clone Pawn, for donating 2,000 bits. Congrats on the US Championship. Thank you so much. So yeah, dc6, knight c6 it's a lot harder to create a messy structure, and I think I probably would not have had any chance to win. Fortunately for me, Jeffrey was in a fighting mood, and he didn't want to make a draw with dc6, so he played bishop b2. It's worth noting also, someone asked about knight e4 here. If knight e4, white can take. If I play fe4, hitting the knight and hitting the rook, white goes knight d4, c5 takes, knight c6, bishop e3. and white is just slightly better because the pawn at e4 is loose. My pawn structure is not great, and so if I play knight e4 and he takes, I probably have to go bishop a1. But after knight g5, this is extremely dangerous, if not outright winning for white. Because here white is threatening bishop d2 to hit the knight and hit the bishop. If I play c5 here, I think white can maybe play bishop d2, bishop f6, queen e1, b6, and I think e4 is very, very strong here for white, followed by e5. If I take, I think knight e4 is very, very dangerous as well. All this I think is quite good for white. It's also worth noting after c5, I think white can maybe even en passant and play queen d5, or play queen d5 check. Oh my gosh. Thank you, F1234KY, for gifting a sub to Zizak. Like queen d5, king g7, knight e6, takes. This is also very dangerous. Open king, knight g5, knight e6 ideas are coming. Very dangerous position to play. So for that reason, I played c5. He played bishop b2. Now, basically, this has turned into a basically a Pano King's Indian with a pawn on f5 instead of f7 and a bishop on c8 and d7. So now if we go back to the start, let's go back to the start. The Pano King's Indian goes like this. Play bishop g2, castles, knight c6, knight c3, a6. Well, I guess white, for this one, let's just play this position. So this would be a normal sort of Panov, or well, I guess it normally goes knight d2, c5, and then queen c2. So this would be sort of a normal sort of Panov type opening in general. But if we compare this, let's compare this now to the game, as I was trying to point out. So we've reached this position versus this position. So it's very similar, but the difference being that I don't have a bishop d7, b5, and I put the pawn on f5. It's not on f7, so there's a nice big hole here on e6 for white to take advantage of. So in this position, Jeffrey did play knight g5, which also made me very happy. I thought that queen c2 and rook e1 playing for an early e4 was very dangerous and much stronger. Nerfa Chacha says, did I really intentionally avoid trading any pieces for a really long time? Yes, I did, because you want to keep all the pieces on the board. It's a must-win game, man. You can't go for the draw. You got to go all in. No fear of a loss, basically. That was my attitude. Just show no fear. Play for the win. If you lose, it happens. So here Jeffrey played knight g5, which actually made me really happy because, like I said, I was much more concerned about ideas playing for an early e4. So knight g5, I played rook b8. And, you know, it's a nice big hole on e6, but you can't really take advantage of it here, because if you put a knight on e6, I will just trade. So I played rook b8 to play b5. He played queen d3. Now, knight e6 looks very tempting, because in a lot of King's Indians, in a lot of King's Indians, normally you want to put a knight on e6, but because the pawn's on e7 and not e5, it makes it a little bit different. So let's now go back again, comparing structures. So let's say, let's just play a different variation of the King's Indian, one that's more well known. Play e5, d5, knight e7. I don't know what's. Let's just play the bayonet or something. a5. No, maybe let's not say a5. Let's say black plays something like I don't know, something like c5, f5, knight g5. You'll notice that white gets a knight to e6 here, and the difference here is the pawn is on e5, not e7. So normally, what happens in something like this is after h6, knight e6, takes, you get some position, well, I guess something like this, and you get some position where white tries to sneak the knight to d5 and create a protected passed pawn. So if you play like queen c8 here, knight d5, and you have to take, white sneaks in and gets a protected passed pawn deep in your territory, and it sort of cramps the black position here quite a bit. So this is not exactly a theory, but a theme that can occur in the King's Indian. Obviously, it's usually slightly different than this, but nonetheless, the theory being that if the pawn's on e5, knight e6 is very strong. You sneak the knight into the hole. When I trade, you take, you put the knight on d5, you get a protected passed pawn, and it's very, very bad for black. So here I played rook b8. Jeffrey played queen d3. Now, if Jeffrey plays knight e6, trying to plop the knight on e6, I can trade. And now, though, it's slightly different because I can play queen c8, knight d5. Now I go knight c6, and you'll see the difference here is that the pawns are protected. And even if I trade, like we get this position, after takes, knight a7, white might be better here, but the because the pawn's on e7, not e5, it's not a passed pawn, and I can eventually probably remaneuver everything around. I can even play like knight e5 here, maybe go knight g4, f4, knight g4, knight f6, and the pawns are good, but they don't really take advantage, and the bishop is stuck behind the wall of pawns here. So while this looks very, very good, it's not completely clear. So Jeffrey did not play knight e6. He played queen to d3, trying to prepare e4, maybe knight e6, but more importantly, trying to prevent me from playing b5. So here I played queen to e8. He played knight to d1, which I think was, when I saw knight d1, this was the start of me getting happy, because at this point I think white is still probably slightly better, but knight d1 is a very passive move, and in most Dutches you want to play for e4 and f4. And when you play knight d1, now I go b5, and at this point knight e6 is no longer really a threat. You're gonna have to play knight e3 at some point to prevent me from taking, and then once you put the knight on e3, there's no e4 here. So here he plays queen d2, played knight to b7, Jeffrey played knight e3, and now I go knight d8. And already white is probably still better here, but you can't put the knight on e6 anymore because I guard e6 twice. You can't really take. Your knight on e3 protects c4, but you also can't play for e4 and f4 now. So it's already kind of starting to go slightly sideways for white in this position. So here Jeffrey played knight to h3. Basically, Jeffrey was worried now I might play h6, g5, queen g6 and expand on the king side. So knight h3, trying to put the knight on f4. Isn't the knight on g5 always very dangerous in these positions? No, because this is not a King's Indian. My pawn is on e7, not e5. So the knight's never going to go in the hole on e6 here because I'm guarding e6 twice. So here Jeffrey plays knight to h3, trying to retreat the knight, maybe put on f4 and go h4, which is thematically interesting, but again, sort of pushing things back. The knight on e3 is awkward. How come we're retreating knights? Well, I'm retreating my knight because my knight on b7 is terrible. It can't go to a5 and put pressure on c4, and ideally I'd like to maybe put it on f7 and e5. So here, knight d8. He plays knight to h3. I play bishop d7. Again, logical move. Try to develop the bishop, connect the rooks eventually. Knight f7, knight e5 is an idea. Maybe at some point I want to go e5, but just bishop d7 in general makes a lot of sense. So at this point, Jeffrey played rook a d1. So here I played b4. Very difficult decision. I spent a lot of time here trying to figure out what to do. They spent a lot. Mana says Mubats. Oh no, wrong chat. Wall Star says there was a point in the stream when they were like black pretty much never wins this position. Which point was that? I don't know. I mean, they're probably just saying after b4 black can never win, but at the same time, if white plays queen a5 here, I think I just ignore it and go knight f7. If you can maybe take, at the very least I can probably make a draw. Very least I can make a draw with b4, knight f4, rook a8, queen b6, rook b8, and I just keep hitting your queen. Wherever your queen goes, I just keep moving my rook back and forth to make a draw in the worst case. Elfin says, I think Maurice lost it at b4. b4 is actually, I think, the best move according to the computers. Oddly enough, I mean, I get why they would say it's a bad move because you just close the queen side, your pieces are passive. But at the same time, I can't take on c4 because then I justify knight e3. So if I ever take knight c4, I justify the knight e3 move, and now the knight has a great outpost. Now he's just going to go rook e1, f3, e4, e5, and just spank me in the center. So after bishop d7, rook a d1, like I didn't want to take because that justifies knight c4. I didn't love knight f7. I thought, okay, I'm just going to go b4, a5, a4, rook a8. White does not have e4 with the knight on e3 here. No way to keep the tension. I can maybe play knight f7, knight f4, knight e5, but it's very, very messy and sharp, and I wasn't sure what's going on. I was also worried about some long-term ideas like knight e6 takes, with ideas playing a4 and trying to use this light square bishop to maximum effect here. So I saw these moves, and I thought for, I want to say 25 minutes before playing b4. I didn't like b4 here. Fabi said if knight gets to e5, white should just resign. That's not shocking. But it's very hard to get exactly what I want. So I didn't want to play b4 here, but I didn't see anything that really made much more sense. So I was not convinced that knight f7 was really clear. So I played b4. Now Jeffrey here played queen c2. Another move that I think does not make sense. Knight f4. If you're gonna go knight f4, just do it right away and don't worry about g5. But Jeffrey double clutched with queen c2. So here I played a. Oh, he said in the end game. Yeah, of course Fabiano said in the end game. So a5. Jeffrey played knight f4. So here I played a4. Jeffrey played h4, trying to solidify the knight on f4. He doesn't want to allow g5 in this position for obvious reasons. Now I went rook a8. Idea, maybe I want to take and go rook a2 and play against this queen and bishop here with the long diagonal at some point. Maybe threats to put the knight on e4 and c3 as well, or g4 and trade on e3. Jeffrey played queen b1. Worth noting, if white plays rook a1, then I will go a3, close the queen side, because if he goes bishop c1, I can now play knight e4 and hit the rook and plop the knight on c3 next move. And after knight c3, white's going to lose material here. And so for that reason, if I get the knight to c3, I'm willing to close the diagonal. If he trades, well, that's just life. I take rook d1, and I'll just probably play like rook a6 and knight f7, knight e5. Maybe it's not better for black here, but there's no danger at any rate. So Jeffrey didn't want to allow this. He plays queen b1, basically saying if I trade, he'll trade, and he wants to keep the ideas of rook a1 and the open a file later on. So here I played rook a6. Important move to try and sidestep stuff. Like if I play, let me just make a random example. Maybe there's some tricks like knight e6, and then he plays against the rook on a8 here. So for that reason, I played rook a6. Now Jeffrey played bishop f3 here, a strange move. Maybe he could have tried h5, although after bishop h6, again, it's getting kind of scary for white because white's never getting e4. The knight on e3 did look good, but now the knight can't go anywhere here. And so black should just be better already at this point. So after rook a6, Jeffrey played bishop f3. So here I play queen to f7. Again, trying to improve my queen. In this position, the only real drawback to black's position, I mean, white's never getting e4 here, but the only drawback is this bishop. If I can move my knight and exchange bishops, then long term I can put a knight on e5. So let's just say white plays some random moves like bishop g2. If we can get this position where I can then put my knight on e5, black never has problems here, because the knight on d8 is the only bad piece. So if you look at this position conceptually, the queen's fine, knights, bishops, rook on f8, I'd like it on a8, but otherwise the knight on d8 is the only lame piece here. I mean, knight a5 is playable, but if we just make some random moves, well, you can always just play queen d3, and the knight again is trying to put pressure on the pawns, but there's no real sustained pressure. Knight has no access to c6, and so his knight on a5 is just a tremendously bad piece here. So for that reason, the logical idea behind queen f7 is to play knight e8, exchange, and bring the knight to e5, because it's the only really bad piece for black here is the knight on d8. So that's why I played queen f7, because also here I can't move the knight anywhere. All these squares I lose material because the bishop will take it. So I played queen f7. Now here Jeffrey played a really strange move. He played knight eg2. At this point, I thought h5 was probably the best try for white. It's probably still bad for white, but still you try to create something here. Was when Jeffrey played knight eg2, I could tell that Jeffrey was really starting to slip, and he had slipped by playing a lot of inaccuracies, but now he played knight g2 to try and play for e4. Now here I played knight g4, which actually is not the best move. I could have played h6, and after h6, at least according to the computers, this is borderline resignable for white. Main reason being that I forgot that after h5, g5, knight g6, I can play g4, because he put the knight on g2, so now he trapped his own bishop, and after knight f8, queen f8, he just trapped his own bishop here. Whereas with the knight on e3, the bishop always had access squares, so this whole h6, g5 idea never worked. But I basically forgot that after h6, with the knight here, I just trapped the bishop. Yeah, h6 is good, but as an example, you guys, so let's just say white plays a move like this. Here, h6 doesn't work, because now after h5, g5, white can still play knight g6, rook e8, and like knight f5, and it's still very messy. Maybe black is better anyway, but it's messy. Whereas when white puts the knight on g2, not only does he remove the knight from attacking the pawn, he also traps his own bishop here on f3, because you lose the escape squares on g2 and h1. So here I played knight g4 instead of h6. Also is probably completely fine too. I just figured here he's going to trade. I'm going to get knight to e5. His knights are passive, so this should be good. So here Jeffrey took on g4. I took, he played e4. And now here I played a bad move, which the computer sort of proved to me it's bad, but as a human it's hard not to. So here I traded bishops, but actually the correct move here I believe was bishop f6, with the idea of going queen g7, knight f7, knight e5. Now I didn't play bishop f6 because I was obviously very worried about e5. But after d takes e5, knight d3, bishop f5, queen c1, I think I trade, and just bishop d3, rook d3, and queen, is it queen g7 or knight b7? I think knight b7, queen e3, and like queen g7. Black is simply just winning here because black is up a pawn. The knight guards the c5 pawn. The knight on g2 is a terrible piece. It can't go to f4. I've also got rook a2, rook a8, even knight d6, knight f5, knight d4 at some point. And so this position is really good for black here. But over the board with only about 25 minutes left, it's a little bit hard to play this. And I saw a clear-cut idea with bishop takes b2 and trying to trade the queen. So I played takes queen g7. Jeffrey took. I took. It's worth noting e5 is bad right away because then I can play knight f7. There's a pin on the queen, so you can't move this pawn. If knight d3, I think just bishop f5, knight f4, and maybe g5 here is strong. g5 takes knight d3, knight g5. Now I've got knight f3, knight h3, queen h6, queen h3, queen h2. All kinds of really dangerous mates coming up here for black. So for that reason, Jeffrey did not go for this. He played queen g7 and he played e5, trying to play e6 and just permanently destroy this knight on d8. Like if I play h5, just an example, after e6, bishop e8, white can play like knight e3, and this knight on d8 is just completely dead. Like it's just suffocated behind this wall of pawns. I can't go f7 e5. I can't go c6 e5. I can go to b7 a5, but as I highlighted before, even if the knight gets to a5, it doesn't put real pressure. He defends the pawn with one piece, and it's just good night, knight, good night, game over, you lose. Knight can't ever get into the game, so his knight is just completely dead on a5. So for that reason, you do have to be careful, because the knight, good night, yeah, this is a knight from hell here on a good night, knight, exactly, good night, knight. The knight on a5 is just completely dead, and also the bishop is terrible too. I've got no squares really to bring it into the game either. So structurally, I have to be very careful here. That's why here after e5, I played bishop f5, and here white cannot go e6 because he's one move too slow. Because here I can go bishop to c2, rook to d2, and now I win the pawn first, and now I get knight b7, knight a5, and the pawn on c4 is loose. Maybe white can hold this still, but once the knight gets to a5, or I go bishop a2, b3, there definitely is going to be a lot of compensation here for black. So here Jeffrey played takes. I took back, and now after ed6, I was very happy because now there are never any real strategical issues. Because e6 is not a threat. So knight f7, knight e5 is great. With the pawn on g4, more importantly, it gives me this really good outpost on f3. And for that reason, it's very hard to play for white here. Here, Jeffrey made the first of several inaccuracies. So he played rook e1. Knight e3 was definitely a better move here. Although after takes rook, maybe I don't take right away. I think I can take rook a3. If takes, rook f5, rook d3, knight f7, and black should be fine here with knight e5, knight f3 coming up next move. Someone asked why not play knight e3 and not takes. I thought if knight f3 I could maybe grab a pawn here. Yeah, I can maybe grab a pawn. Maybe white is still okay in this one, but after knight b7, knight e5, takes rook a3, black is definitely not worse because now the knight goes to a5, and now there's going to be real pressure on the pawn on b3. So knight e3 is probably also completely fine. ed6 is definitely not the best move, and like I said, after ed6, I knew that my knight was gonna get to e5 and get freedom. And once you get Philadelphia freedom for the knight on e5, there definitely is no danger for black. So here Jeffrey played rook fe1. Knight e3 was definitely better, but after rook e1, I played knight f7. Jeffrey played rook e7. Maybe it's okay. I think knight e3 is again better, but after knight e5 takes rook f5, rook e3, well, white is probably fine here. I've got the knight on e5. I'm going to get control of the open a file. There's going to be a weak pawn on b3 here. So white's probably not worse, but white also is not going to be better. So here Jeffrey played rook e7, played king f6, and here Jeffrey made what I think was the final mistake. So throughout the game, Jeffrey had made quite a few inaccuracies, but here he made what I would say was the final serious blunder, after which there really was no escape from a loss. Because here Jeffrey played rook b7. Rook e6 was the last try for white, and white's probably still okay here. After rook e6, I was going to take. He takes with the pawn, obviously. Takes. Not e takes f7, of course, because then I take, and these pawns are much too fast. Rook a1, b3, and this is just an epic disaster for white. Rook e6 is not super hard to see, but Jeffrey, I think, was already very rattled at this point. And I think he also, I think what Jeffrey missed when he played rook b7 is he missed the idea of rook a1 exchanging one rook. I think he thought he was always going to be able to double the rooks. And I think that was the big mistake that Jeffrey made in this game, was that he forgot about this idea. It's either that or he forgot about mating threats, which I'll discuss very shortly. So rook e6 is a try. So I take on b3. And now here, the reason this is tricky is because if I play knight e5, white has knight d5 check, hitting the king. If I take the pawn, I walk into knight c7 with a very nasty fork on the rook. If I go king g7, white plays e7. And now I have to move the rook somewhere. Wait a second. Did I misplay this? 1 second. So takes, knight e5, check. Yeah, so I go king g7, white goes e7, and now I have to play rook e8. White plays knight c7, forking both rooks, and now I go rook a8. He can take either rook. I think taking on a8 maybe is better, and rook d6, but still. Oh wait, no, sorry. This loses because of rook a1, king a2, knight f3 mate. So I think here actually he should not take. He should take this rook. I take and then probably trade. Takes knight e3, and this position is probably equal still after rook a7. But with the weakness on g4 and the 2 weak pawns here on b4 and c5, white should be able to hold this with correct play. However, having said that, it's very hard to go for this because you're not 100% sure with the knight on e5 in terms of what's going on. So after king f6, Jeffrey played rook to b7. So here I traded and played rook a8, and now Jeffrey, I think, realized the danger. I think the other thing Jeffrey might have missed in this line is I think Jeffrey might have thought after knight e3 he would have enough compensation with the passive knight, the king, and the bishop here. But unfortunately, this loses to, well, rook a1, he can go king f1 and transpose into the game. But if he trades the rooks on a1, someone says any puzzle rush today. Yes, I'll be doing puzzle rush after I finish my analysis of this game. So if he trades on a1, if he goes king g2, I go bishop e4 check. If king h2, there's rook h1 mate. If he goes king h2, then I go knight e5, and now he's getting mated with knight f3 and rook g1 because the king is completely boxed again. This is just really bad for white. Maybe he can play f3 and survive, but just to show you guys what I mean, if he takes the knight, bishop on f5, I go knight f3 check, king g2 and rook g1 mate. The pawn supports the knight supports the rook, and white's king is just completely checkmated here on g2. So for that reason, in this position after rook a1, well, actually, yeah, rook a1, this is the game. Jeffrey played king f1. So here I played knight to e5. Rook takes a1. September 27 says, why did I decide to stream in the middle of the classical tournament? I streamed a little bit during London as well, and during Gibraltar. In fact, during Gibraltar, I even played did I play Title Tuesday? I think I played Title Tuesday and the Pro Chess League during Gibraltar. So it's not exactly a new thing, and I can't stream the way I normally would during an event, but if I do it for an hour, it doesn't really affect anything, and I can still keep my general routine in order. So there is no drawback. So king f1, I played knight e5. Again, being thematic, bring the knight into the game. Jeffrey played rook a1. He can also maybe try rook a7, although I think this gets checkmated somehow. I think I take... No, sorry. Do I take or do I play bishop c2? No, I think I take and play rook a1. If king e1, bishop c2 wins the knight on d1 because of the pin of the king. If he goes king to e2, I think this loses because of knight to f3. And now you can't move the knight because then I checkmate you this way because the bishop covers d3 and you've got no squares at all here. So the king gets mated this way. And if you play, I don't know, like h5, then I can go bishop c2. And now you still can't move the knight because it's the same checkmate. The bishop again covers all the squares and your king just gets mated. And so I don't think there's any way out of this checkmate. You can maybe play knight g2, but I think, again, I think there's probably now I go rook a2 probably. Whoa, thank you Matt Staples for raiding with a party of 659. Thank you so much, Matt Staples, for the raid from poker. Hope you had a good afternoon, good evening at the tables. Hope they were profitable, plus EV day for you. So hope it all went well. Once again, thank you to everyone coming from the poker channel. My name is Hikaru Nakamura. I'm going over my games from the recently finished United States Chess Championship in 2019, which I took down, won the whole event, took down the first prize of 50 grand. So I'm going over the games from this event right now. This is actually the most important game. This was the last game of the tournament. I was playing black with the black pieces against Jeffrey Xiong. This was more or less a must-win game. If I win this game, I would have gotten clear first place. If I did not win this game and it ended in a draw, we would have had a chop pot and then a playoff for bragging rights. But I did find a way to win this game, so we're going over this game right now. So once again, thank you to all you guys who are coming from poker. And as you guys know, it's always much better to take down the final table rather than chopping. So all right, so so this is knight g2. So in the game, Jeffrey traded rooks, played king d2, played knight f3. Again, going for the same checkmate because the bishop covers all the squares. The king is wide open here. Jeffrey played knight takes f5. I played king takes f5. Plika says chop pot. Yeah, if I drew this game in the last round, there would have been we would have chopped the pot 3 ways and then had a playoff for bragging rights. But I definitely did not want to chop the pot. So Jeffrey took. I played king f5. How was I feeling at this point in the game? I was feeling good. So those of you who are coming from poker, thank you. Let me slap your king for gifting a sub to Schnicks2525. Those of you who are coming from poker, normally chess tournaments are played with a time control, so you have to make a certain amount of moves in an allotted time. And most time controls that are slower chess that count for the classical rankings, you have to make 40 moves in about an hour and a half or 2 hours. And so if you use your hour and a half of allotted time before you make 40 moves, you lose the game. And as you'll see at this point in the game, well, I guess I don't have notation here, but this was move 38. So we were 2 moves from time control, and we both had about 5 minutes. So normally what happens is when you reach time control, you try to you go chill out, maybe take a smoke, go use the restroom, just relax, because once you reach move 40, all the pressure is gone because you made the time control, and then you try to figure out what's going on in the game. In this game, however, it was very unnerving because the next couple of moves happened really quickly. King e1, rook e1, king d3, knight e5. Very quickly, if knight e2 here, I have knight d4. If rook f7, I go king e5. If rook e7, I have king f6, hitting the rook, hitting the knight. If king d2, I go knight f3 check, protect the rook, pick up the rook on e7 next move. If white plays king d3 here, I think I have, yes, I've got rook d1 check, king e3, and then I have knight c2, which is checkmate. All the squares are covered on this square. The king covers f4 and the pawn covers f3, so the king is just mated here. So right around this time, after king d3, knight e5, I figured I've made 40 moves. I was very happy, figured I'm winning. I'm on my way to taking first prize and the 50 grand. It's all good. I'm about to celebrate. And then as soon as Jeffrey played king d2, I started to realize that nothing was quite as simple as I thought it would be, because originally I thought after king d2, rook a1, this should just be winning on the spot. But then Jeffrey found this very tricky move, knight to e6 here. And now I have to be careful myself, because if I go king e4 trying to bring the king and mate and run my king and maybe grab all these pawns on the king side, white has this very annoying trick, knight g5 check, hitting the king. King d4, and now white just checks and just goes right back and forces a repetition, and he cuts off my entry square on f3 here. So for that reason, I have to be careful. I can't just play normal routine moves like I would like to. So here I had to play h6, cut the g5 square off, so then I can run my king in without knight g5 being a problem. So here Jeffrey played rook to b6, hitting the base of my pawn chain. So white wants to take this pawn, then he'll take this pawn, and then these two pawns are just going to run down the board. So here I played rook to a3. Jeffrey played king to c2. Important here that if white tries to take the pawn and then grab this one, I can play rook takes b3. And now both pawn chains are falling apart. We're both losing pawns on c4 and c5, but here it's favorable to black because of where my king is relative to where white's king is. If white takes the pawn, hitting my rook, then I play knight takes c4 check, hitting the king and hitting the rook. If white goes to c2, I play check first, and then I pick up the rook. If white goes king c1, again check, avoiding this capture, hitting the king, and then I capture the rook again. If white goes king to e1, then I play rook to b1 check, and then I hit the rook on d6. If king to e2, I play rook to b2 check again, hitting the king, pick up the rook. So the only square white can go without losing is king to d1, because now if I play rook to b1, he is king c2, hitting the rook again. If I go rook b2 check, he goes king c1, and now if I capture the rook, then he still captures my rook on b2. However, even this endgame should be winning because I can go king e5. If king b3, king d5, king b4, knight to e4. White cannot exchange because I take, and king c3, king f3, and again I just gobble all the kingside pawns. If white tries knight d3, then I can play king to d4, knight to f4, and now I can take, and knight to e4, pick up this pawn, bring the knight back, run the pawn straight down the board with the assistance of my black king. And white's king is completely boxed as well by my king, so this is completely winning for black. So I saw this endgame at the very least. Now maybe there's something better for black here in this endgame. Maybe I can play rook b1, and even this is an improved version because the king's further away from the pawn. But I just knew this had to be winning eventually for me. So for that reason, Jeffrey did not play rook d6. He played king c2, trying to keep his pawn chain intact while keeping the threats against my pawn chain alive at the same time. So now I played rook to a2 check. Jeffrey played king to d1. Now we can go through every single move here because now it's getting to the point where am I telling you that white can't make a big D here? No, I don't think white can make a big D here. Super integration. So after rook a2, if white goes king c1, I can throw in a check. If white goes king b1, I think there are a couple ways to win here. So the first way I think to win, the simplest, is probably to play rook b2, king a1, and is it rook b3? No, there's definitely a way to force a checkmate here, as I recall. Is it king e5? Maybe it's just king e5 here. Very simple. Protect the pawn. If knight f4, just rook takes b3. If knight d3, it just takes, and I can just win these pawns. If white takes, now I go king d4, and if rook d6, I think, let's see, I think king c3 is winning here. If knight f4, just king to c2 threatens rook a3 checkmate because the king covers both squares. If rook a6 to stop it, then I have rook b1, king a2, knight c1 checkmate because the pawn covers the open square, and this is checkmate as well. So this should be winning for starters. I'm not sure if I would have played this. Maybe there's another way to win as well, but this is definitely winning. If king d1, then I just play knight takes f2, and it's winning. So king c1 is no good. So let's keep in the theme. He played king d1, so let's go king b1. If king b1, I think here I take. He plays rook d6, and now I think I have to be slightly careful here. Let me see. So king b1 takes rook d6. Is it knight f3? No. I think knight d3 is probably winning because now white goes rook c6, and I think I go king e5 here. If white can't push the pawn because I take the knight. If white plays knight c5, I just trade and go king d4. d6 doesn't work because takes d7, rook d2, picks up the pawn. And if white goes rook b5, I think after king c3, this is probably winning, so I'm threatening check and mate, but I'm not sure actually now that I look at this whether I'm sure this is winning. So let's see. So king b1, let's think about this. Okay, so rook takes. Maybe rook d6 is no, it's king e4 right away, maybe. No, let me think about this. So knight d3, rook c6. King e4 takes, b5, king c3, d6. I'm not sure actually. Now that I'm thinking about this, not sure. I'm sure I saw something during the game that was winning. I'm not quite sure what, but I thought I saw something. It was knight f3, 4. Ah, yes, yes. No, no, you guys are right. Yes, yes, yes. You're right. Yes, yes, yes. It was. You're right. It was rook f3. Yes, it was rook f3, knight c5, rook g3, and the king is very far away from the g pawn. The g pawn is going to make a queen here. This is the reason. So for that reason, it's just lost. White plays rook d8. I throw in a check. King c2, g3. If d6, I just go g2 because d7 I can always sack, and then I just move the rook and make a queen. If white tries to survive with rook g8, king g4, knight e4, again I go g2. If rook f2, then I have rook to c1 check, and I make a queen next move, which is also winning. So this is actually what I saw. Yes, it was rook f2, rook f3, because white's king is too far away, which is why you need the king on d1, because it can run over very quickly. So that's right. That's exactly why why Jeffrey played king to d1 here. So now here I played knight to d3. Did I calculate them to the win? I pretty much calculated that the pawn was getting to g2. That was the extent of what I calculated with rook f3 during the game. But of course, as you see, I don't remember everything, because now it's like 2 days later. Someone reminds me, and it's like, oh yes, that's why king b1 was bad. But I have forgotten from during the game. So he went king d1. So now I played knight d3. Now the difference here is if I play rook f2 takes, rook f3, knight c5, rook g3, there are a couple problems. First of all, I think white can play rook f6. And this maybe is holding, maybe not, but I'm not sure if this is holding or not. Maybe it's not holding, because c6 I can go knight f7, knight d6 is one thing, but I was not sure whether this was good. And the second issue I thought was that he can play rook d8, check king e2, and maybe after g3 this is still winning, but I was not convinced, because now after d6 if I go g2 he can sidestep with king f2, hitting the rook and the pawn. Maybe I can still move the rook, but after d7, a little bit messy. I mean, maybe still rook g2, king e3, g2 is winning, but I was not 100% sure about this. So that's why, I mean, maybe this is also winning after g3, but I felt this was a little bit risky to go for. So that's why instead of going for this, I played knight d3, because I figure here I box the king and I protect the pawn. Although when I played knight d3, it was based on a miscalculation. A very slight one at that, but a miscalculation nonetheless. Because here after rook d6, knight f2, king e1, knight d3, after king d1, king e4, I missed this idea with knight c7, because I thought after king d4, wherever he moves the knight, if he goes to f4, we take and go g3, take g2, king e1, king f3, and I'm going to go rook a1 and make a queen, and this is winning for black. So knight f4 doesn't work. If he goes like knight f8, then I just go king d4. And I'm going king c3, and I'm going to mate him with rook d2, because the king gets stuck on d1. If he goes rook e6, king c3, rook e2, then I checkmate him here. Plays like d6, just rook d2, which is checkmate. So this is just game over as well. But unfortunately, after king e4, he has knight c7, which I completely overlooked. Thunderous Rage says, my only complaint with Hikaru's analysis is that he makes it seem so easy. I think I can do it. Then I go out and get adopted by 1100 Bullet. Join the club, Thunderous Rage. I watch Tfue stream Fortnite. I'm like, I can just build. I can win the solo, and then I get killed. Like then I get killed before the end of the second circle. So I know your pain, Thunderous Rage. I have the same thing happens to me when I play Fortnite. Exact same thing. So yeah. So after knight to c7 here, I played knight to f2 again. Again, I can't go king e3 because then there's rook e6 check, so I have to move the king, and then this pawn is coming down the board really fast, and the knight also covers the a8 square. So king e3 is no good. King d4, knight b5, king e3 check, and then this pawn is really fast here, and I just lose the game. Mana says Hikaru is a 900 elo Fortnite player. I'm a little bit better than that, Mana, but thank you for disrespecting me. So here I played knight to f2 check. And Jeffrey played king to e1. If Jeffrey goes the other way with king to c1, I think he gets mated here by king to d3. If he plays, there are all sorts of squares, but rook a6 is probably the most logical. If he plays rook f6 here, then I think, yeah, white gets mated this way, because I check. He can't go to d1. King b1, knight e4 hits the rook, and now knight c3 and rook a2 is mate. You go rook a6, and I check you this way, and this is checkmate because I cover the square. So rook f6 is no good. If you play like rook g6, then I can also go this way, check king b2, rook g1, because you can't stop knight d1, knight c3 with mate. For example, if you play knight b5, I go knight d1. Oh, knight b5 maybe does stop mate, but it still loses. Check king a2, knight c3. You have to take and then take c2, c1, queen. D6, even this wins. C1, queen, king c2. White has no checks. Queen a1 and queen b1, queen b3 is mate. If you play queen f6, then just queen b1 and queen b3. So this is a very picturesque mate here for white, or for black rather. No way to stop these mates with the king being so safe, no checks anywhere. So this is winning for black. So this is why white cannot go king to c1, because basically I just build a different box here with this knight d1, knight c3 mate, or rook c2, knight e4, knight c3, and then rook a2, or rook c1, rook b1. Basically, white's getting mated one of these two ways here. Also, if white plays rook e6 to stop knight e4, which is the most thematic move, then again, I think rook a1, king b2, just rook g1, same issues, just the exact same problem that white can't stop mate here. So that's why Jeffrey did not go king c1. He went king to e1. I played king to d3 here. Again, important move. King f3, white can play rook f6, king g3, d6. And now my king is on the wrong side, so there are never any mating threats, because the king always has squares here to go to. And now actually black can end up losing here, because if you go knight e4, d7, rook d2, white can play knight to d5. And now he cuts me off, and this pawn is going to d8 and making a queen. And also I can't go to a8 either, because the knight covers a8. So knight has like dual functionality for helping this pawn become a queen. So I do have to be careful here, which is why here I played king to d3. Idea to box the king the other way with king d3. I cut him this way, and then I want to just checkmate him on e1. So if white plays like well, I guess Jeffrey did play rook g6. If white plays rook e6 here, I can probably play like in the game with knight h1. Knight e4 is a little bit risky, because takes, and d6 again is dangerous with these multiple square coverings by the knight. This might still be winning for black, but it's extremely dangerous. Yeah, why not king d3? The reason not king e3 is because check knight e4, and I wasn't sure if this is winning or not. I assume this is winning. Maybe king e3. You can't go d7 because of checkmate. If you go king d1, then I have check and I take the pawn. And if king f1, I guess it's still tricky though. This is maybe rook d2, knight d5, and king e1 and rook e6. This probably wins, but again, it's all a little bit messy, and you really don't want to allow something like this. Like king e3 is probably winning, but I just wasn't 100% sure. Or even something like this, I wasn't sure about. Like king f3 takes, king e4, d6 like this. Because again, if rook d2, there's always knight d5, and king f3. I mean, maybe this does just win, but I wasn't 100% sure. And at this deep stage in the game, I mean, if I'm wrong about what's happening here with the knight and the pawn, it's not even going to be a draw. I'm just going to lose. So that's the reason that I didn't go for this. Go for king e3, because I thought king d3 made more sense. Because not only is there not a check, but I also have other ideas like knight h1 and knight h3 to create a checkmate as well. So so here Jeffrey played rook takes g6. I played knight to e4. Now it's worth noting knight h1 is also a very creative way to try and create a checkmate, because the knight covers f2 and the king covers e2 and d2. And if king f1, knight g3, king g1, maybe knight e2 is winning. Like in actually, this transposes to the game now that I think about it, but well, I saw knight h1. I thought knight e4 was also completely fine. However, if Jeffrey had played rook e6 here, then I was going to play knight h1 to create the same mate threat, with my king covering these key squares. King f1 takes, king e2, and now I was going to play knight e2, because if takes, I go king e2. Thank you, PhotoChess, for donating 100 bits. And now if white tries d6, I can go king f3, d7, check, king h2, check, king h3, and rook h1 is checkmate like this. So I was going to play it this way if he went rook e6, but then Jeffrey played rook takes g6. And while I saw knight h1, I thought, why bother? Knight h1, maybe there's rook a6 tricks here as well. So like, it's, you know, a little bit, the knight on h1 looks funny, but it's much better placed on e4 where it has all the access. And the knight also covers d6 maybe as well. So that's why I thought that's why I thought the knight on e4 was much better than being on h1. So rook g6, I played knight to e4. Now I'm threatening rook a1 mate. Same mate. King covers all the squares. King is completely boxed. Jeffrey played king f1. I took king g1. If he goes king e1, I can probably still go back knight e4, or even now maybe king e3, because on check knight e4 takes d6. I have g3. If d7, g2, king can't go over, so queen is mate. If he goes king f1, then king f3, and rook a1 is mate next move as well. So this is winning. So that's why Jeffrey went king g1, knight e2. Now here Jeffrey played the last move that just kind of loses immediately with king h1. King f1 also loses here, but at least he can pretend that he has something here. After king f1, I go king e3. Not really a specific mate threat. I guess if white plays rook g4, I go king f3, hitting the rook and threatening rook a1 mate here. So this is winning for black. If he plays a d6 though, I think this is losing. Let me make sure. Yeah, I think this is losing because of rook h1, rook a1, king g2, check, king h2, and now I go g3. And if king h3, I have knight f4 check, king g4, knight takes g6, and if d7, then I get knight e5 with a nice little fork, and I collect the pawn on d7. If he goes rook takes g3, this also loses because I take d7, and now I don't play rook g8. I just go king f2. White makes a queen. I go check. If king h1, knight g3 is mate. If white goes king h3, then I go knight g1 anyway, or knight f4. Both are mate, but knight g1 looks a lot prettier than knight f4, so they're both checkmate. So this is also winning, but king f1 is obviously the best try, because after king h1, king e3 is very clearly winning. And here Jeffrey played rook f6. Again, if rook g4, actually, you know what? I was going to say one thing though, you guys. I missed a win here with knight d4. This actually was winning on the spot. And the reason knight d4 is winning on the spot, Manas, as Hikaru is currently analyzing, he will get back to regularly scheduled events after this. I don't know what that means. But anyway, after knight d4, if white plays rook g4, there's this very common theme. You don't see it that often, but it happens from time to time, where you get this knight on f3 and rook a2. So you're threatening rook h2 because the knight covers g1, and the only way to stop checkmate here for white is to play rook to g2, and then after rook h1 check, rook a1 check, rook g1, rook takes g1 is also mate because the knight covers all the key squares, and this is just game over as well. So knight d4 is actually a very nice move that I probably, if I had more time, I would have seen. With very little time left on the clock, I saw that king e3 was also just winning on the spot. And the reason I saw it was winning is I saw this very straightforward line with d6, king f3. If white plays d7, then I go knight g3 check, king g1, rook g2 mate, and we cover all the squares again. If white plays rook f6, there are a couple mates, but I saw knight f4 as the simplest one. If white goes d7, I just go check, king h2, g3 mate. And if white takes, I take, and if d7, I go king g3. And now it's even simpler because king g1 gets mated, and if you make a queen, I just go rook a1, queen d1, rook d1, which is also checkmate. So I saw this line as being pretty clean-cut winning. Also, it's worth noting rook f6, king g3 should also win. I'm still threatening rook a1, rook f1, king h3, and it's the same problem here. If d7, I check, king g1, rook g2, and I mate him this way. So basically, white's getting mated pretty much no matter what he does here. So that's why Jeffrey tried rook f6 to cut me off from getting the mating squares. But in this line, I don't even need to go for mate. I just play rook a1 check, king g2. If king h2, I go g3, and it's the exact same thing as the game. So king g2, rook g1, king h2, g3, king h3, rook h1. And here Jeffrey resigned in view of king g4, g2. If rook f3, just king d2, and now I make a queen. And white can't go rook g3 because the knight covers a square, so this is just winning. If white plays king g2, then I go rook h2 check, king f1, g2, king e1, rook h1. King covers all the squares. Again, white has to play rook f1, and then rook takes f1 is just checkmate here. So this is winning as well. So that is why here Jeffrey resigned, because both squares, king g2 leads to mate and king g4 leads to a free queen for me. And so for that reason, Jeffrey resigned here, which put me on +5 or 8 points out of 11. Now it's worth noting, some people were asking, was I following Lenier's game? Now, around time control move 40, I saw that Lenny had reached this ending with the queen and knight against the queen and pawns. But because of how tricky my endgame was and the fact that I only had about 15 minutes, I did not really look at Lenny's game at this point. In fact, when I won my game, I still saw Lenny was playing. I didn't look at his end game. It was only when I went downstairs that I saw that it was in this position with the knight and pawn against the two pawns. And then I saw it was going to be a draw. But prior to going downstairs and actually seeing the game on the big screen, I did not actually know that I'd won the event, which is why when everyone was congratulating me upstairs, I was not sure at all that I had won whatsoever. Like I mean, I saw the game was going. I assumed Lenny would find a way to win. That was my thought process. And then when I got upstairs and saw that the game was going to be a draw, that's when I could finally relax, knowing that I had won the event. Because up to that point, I really had no idea, because of how tense this end game was and how tricky it was. Where if I made one slightly wrong move, White could always get this D pawn going down the board. So it's only when I went downstairs that I knew that I knew that I was going to be the U.S. champion. Prior to going downstairs after my game finished, I had no idea. But it's probably a good thing. Because if I had known, there's a very good, like, if the game had been drawn and I had if the game had been drawn prior to my game ending, and like it had all been clear when Jeffrey resigned against me, I probably would have had a hard time keeping it together. So it probably was better that that Lenier's game was still going. But yeah, when I went downstairs and Lenier did not win the game, it was obviously a very special moment. Sam was there to give me pretty much a bear hug for winning the title after he won it last year. I think it's very, very nice to see, very nice gesture from Sam Shankland, to see that I've been able to inspire him, to see that he was so happy that I won the event rather than some of the other top guys. So that was really special to see. It was also great to have my stepfather upstairs as well. Sorry, not upstairs, downstairs, but it's great to have him there. One thing that never gets talked about is the unsung parents who obviously do so much for all of us to get to that point. Whether it's me, whether it's Fabiano, whoever you are, even Jennifer. A lot of what happens getting to be so good is due to parents and their love and their willingness to take their kids to tournaments, pay for lessons. In my case, I wasn't paying for lessons. I was very fortunate to have a stepfather who's such a great chess coach. But between the tournaments, the coaching, traveling, the parents are definitely the unsung heroes out of all of it. So that definitely was very special. So yeah, it was just a great moment. And then of course there was a closing ceremony the day afterwards. Nothing too crazy happened. But just some NN says, ugh, sitting through kids tournaments is terrible. +1 to parents. Yeah, I mean, I don't know though. These days parents sometimes can be a little bit overzealous too in terms of what's going on in events. But yeah, what parents do, obviously, without parents, like, none of this would happen. Yeah, Sevian as well, a wonder. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. But it was certainly really, really nice to win this one, especially to have my parents there. And having not won for 4 years was really, really special. So it's just a great moment all around.